Hello there, Chaz here, and I'm playing a rather unusual game today. This is actually a little text-based game. So I'm just going to shift my water. This is called The Uncle Who Works for Nintendo. This game makes extensive use of sound. Play with headphones for the best experience. Occasionally, it may take control of your browser. It is not optimized for mobile. For content and trigger warnings, click here, so I'm just going to go through that for the sake of decency. This is a horror game. It does not make use of screamers or jump scares. Sound effects are used for tension and atmosphere. Some playthroughs may encounter plot points concerning a possible suicide. Thematically, many aspects of this game may recall the emotional abuse experienced by children at the hands of adults, and very often other children. So there you go. With that in mind, let us play The Uncle Who Works for Nintendo. You are 11 years old. What is your friend's best name? Let's see. I'm gonna go with Dave. Your best friend Dave has invited you to a sleepover at his house this weekend. You've been friends since first grade, so asking your mom is basically only a formality. You've never confirmed this, but you suspect the babysitter may charge extra when there are two kids. You sometimes feel like staying somewhere else is the only way you can help out. Okay. On Friday night, you're home for only a few hours. Long enough to pack, get enough out with your younger sister, pack some more, and watch some TV. At 6 sharp, you're standing on the sidewalk outside Dave's house, while your mom idles in her car nearby. She leans out the window to you. You behave yourself, okay? She says, as always. I'll be at work, but if anything happens, you call me. Yes, Mom. I'm a good kid, don't worry. I'll pick you up tomorrow at 3, she says, again as usual. But then she pauses, looking up at the sky, which has been overcast throughout the day. If you play outside, she adds, be careful. It's probably gonna rain. I'm gonna wave goodbye. After you part, your mom... Let me try again. After you part, your mom drives down the street, disappearing around the corner. You turn back to Dave's house. The lights inside are glowing warmly. You can see Dave waving at you from his bedroom on the second floor. Head inside. It is 6 p.m. Dave's mom meets you just inside. Hello, she says. Dinner will be ready in just a few minutes, but you can drop stuff off in the den. You and Dave are camping out there tonight. Okay, I'm fairly quiet as a kid, so I'm just going to nod and go to the den. You drop your sleeping and overnight bags in the corner of the den and then pause to take a look around. Behind the couch, a grandfather clock is ticking softly. Through a set of patio doors on the far side of the room, you can see the sky is just as grey as it was when your mom left. Framed pictures line the walls, and over the dark fireplace hangs a monstrous pair of antlers from a buck that Dave's dad shot years ago. And of course, there is the big screen TV. Sometimes it makes you uncomfortable how much nicer Dave's house is than yours. Anyway. You drop your sleeping in... Oh yeah, that was the lines already. Dave entered the room while you weren't paying attention, and he now stands in the doorway smiling expectantly. Are you ready for dinner? He asks. Sure. Dinner passes quickly. Tonight's meal is spaghetti and meatballs, one of Dave's favourite meals, as his mother points out while piling a helping on your plate. Dave's father cracks a beer and jovially interrogates you about how much trouble you and Dave are getting into at school. Dessert is heaping bowls of ice cream drizzled in chocolate sauce. You can't even finish yours. Now, as you've noticed, some of these words are highlighted in red, so I'm going to click on this. Wait, that wasn't a beer at all. That's a glass of lemonade. Why would you even think it was a beer? Dave's father doesn't drink alcohol. You're quite certain of that fact, now that you remembered it. Well, whatever. Dave's father sips a lemonade and jovially interrogates you about how much trouble you and Dave are getting into at school. Dessert is heaping bowls of ice cream drizzled in chocolate sauce. Bah, stumbling over my words there. Anyway, the grandfather clock in the den chimes. Did I just say dem? You go along now, says Dave's mom, smiling from her side of the table. We'll clean up in here. Let's go get the TV ready, says Dave. The two of you leave the dining room and head upstairs. Dave's room is immense. You stay in the den because the TV is larger there, but there's a sizable one here, flush with the wall opposite the full-size bed. We'll take the 64 down first, says Dave, heading towards his TV and opening the entertainment center cabinet. It's his prerogative, of course. He gets to choose what you play first, usually. But as Dave begins unhooking the cords of the N64 from the TV, you catch sight of the other things he has in there. All of the major stuff, an old SNES, a PlayStation, a Dreamcast, but some other things too. Things you don't really recognize. A large black box with green highlights, a smaller purple one, a strange white and yellow tower with what look like gloves resting on hooks on either side, a compact white cone. What are those? Dave looks to the clutter in the cabinet. Oh yeah, he says. They're pretty cool. I can't show them to you though. They're still secret. I promised my uncle. Of course, you suddenly remember. His uncle. The uncle who works for Nintendo. In the corner, the grandfather clock is ticking softly. Through a nearby set of patio doors, you can see it's getting quite dark. Framed pictures line the walls. Davis parks in front of the large TV, playing something on the Nintendo 64. Let's see. Let's examine the grandfather clock. It's 7 o'clock. Framed pictures. You walk around the perimeter of the den, inspecting the pictures idly. Most of them are family portraits from years past. Dave cradled lovingly between his mother and father, or any one of the three on their own. A happy, tidy family. Let's look for pictures of Dave's uncle. You don't find any. Not one. The only pictures here are of Dave and his parents. You don't know why that makes you feel uneasy. Time passes. Let's watch Dave play. You try to relax by watching Dave play a game. After a moment, though, he looks over at you. You play this one, he says. Okay, let's play. This game is kind of spooky. Your character just has a flashlight and is running around in some underground tunnels. Occasionally you hear what sounds like digging. You don't like it. Dave is watching you, and seems to be amused at how uncomfortable you are. You don't say anything so you don't look weak. You play for a while, even though there doesn't seem to be an ending. The clock chimes. You're in the den. Okay, let's see. Think about Dave's uncle. It began with Mew. You didn't believe him at first when Dave came to school one day and told you he'd finally caught Mew. Prove it, you said. So he pulled out his Game Boy and showed you. And there it was. Mew. The 151st Pokemon. Available only to players at promotional events. Somehow unlocked on Dave's game. It's really strong, he said. It KOs every enemy in one hit. Dave demonstrated his claim at recess, when you and some other friends linked Game Boys to do battle. You were the first one down. No one else got on a single hit on Dave's Mew. In a few days, everyone had quit playing Pokemon at recess. The allure had faded. You asked how Dave managed to get it. Oh, my uncle got a job at Nintendo, said Dave. You were walking home together, past one of the construction crews. Dave still lived next door to you at the time. There had been a storm not too long ago. Trees were down all over town. Buildings had collapsed. You were standing at an intersection with Dave as a truck rumbled by, loaded up with ragged tree trunks. What a bad storm. Wait, this couldn't have been too long ago. When did Dave move? There was something nice about being neighbours. Oh. He also got me this new Game Boy, said Dave, pulling it out of his pocket. He hadn't noticed it earlier, but yes, Dave now had a sleek new Game Boy Color. Until today he had one of the old ones, a big grey brick like yours. This one's a special edition, said Dave. Isn't it cool? You agreed. You snap out of your reflections. Alright. Let's talk to Dave. Ask if Dave thinks this storm will be as bad as the last one. I don't like the sound of the wind. You remember that storm we had that tore down all the trees? I don't know what you're talking about, says Dave. You don't remember? Remember what? I actually forgot until tonight. There was this huge storm a few weeks ago, I think. Dave shakes his head. If it was important, I'm sure I would have remembered it, he says. You fall silent. Let's talk about school. You and Dave discussed class a few days ago, when the teacher publicly chastised a classmate you mutually dislike. An hour passes. The clock chimes. Dave's mother bustles into the room, holding a large ceramic bowl filled with popcorn under her arm. "How are you kids doing?" she asks. "Good," says Dave, his eyes not moving from the television. "I hope you're having fun," says Dave's mom. "Here's some popcorn. Extra butter." She places it on the floor by Dave. Almost immediately, Dave is shoveling popcorn into his mouth. Meanwhile, his mother smiles first at him and then back at you. "There's sodas in the kitchen if you get thirsty," she says, "and some pizza from the other night if you get hungry." "Thank you." She looks at Dave. "Your father's gone to bed. I'll be there soon myself. I want you two to keep it quiet, alright?" "Yes, Mom," Dave says tiredly. "Oh, and before I forget," she adds, "your uncle called. He suddenly has some business here in town tomorrow, but he's driving in early. He'll be here around midnight." For the first time, Dave stops playing his game, stops eating popcorn, and turns to look at his mother. "Okay," he says. "I want you two to welcome him in. He'll be very tired and very hungry, so offer him something to eat before he goes to bed." "Okay, Mom. Good night, kids." And with that, she's gone. Dave is parked in front of the large TV, playing something on the Nintendo 64. There's a bowl of popcorn on the floor. You grab a handful of popcorn. It's buttery and delicious. Let's see. Ask about Uncle's visit. "So why's your uncle coming?" Dave shrugs. "Business." "What sort of business?" "Stuff for Nintendo," says Dave. "What does Nintendo do here?" Dave pauses the game and turns towards you, visibly agitated. "How should I know? I don't work for them." Right now he's not quite yelling, but you think if you keep pressing a subject he might. "Sorry, I was just curious." You drop the conversation in silence. Let's watch Dave play some more. You're feeling anxious and you apparently are showing it. Dave looks at you and bites his lip. "Watch this," he says. On screen, the game's main character is in a car on a crowded street in what looks like a virtual New York City. Dave revs up and begins mowing down pedestrians, giggling. You don't think this is very funny, but to Dave it's hilarious. After a while, he stops the car and waits. An ambulance appears, and once the paramedics exit, he beats him to death with a baseball bat. Isn't this great?" he asks. This goes on for a while. Clock chimes. It begins raining outside. Let's check the grandfather clock. It's 10 o'clock. Let's see. Feeling a bit hungry, I'm gonna go to the kitchen. Passing through the empty dining room, you enter the kitchen, which is also deserted right now. Fridge. There are a few things here. Soda, cold pizza, milk, a water pitcher. I actually had cold pizza earlier, so I'm gonna have some of that. You grab your snack and exit the kitchen. You head back to the den. You regret that kitchen trip earlier. Now you have to go to the bathroom. Okay. You head to the bathroom down the hall from the den. There's a shower, a linen closet, and a toilet. You realize there's something wrong with the toilet. The water in the bowl looks solid, like glass. When you attempt to turn the handle, nothing happens, but the toilet emits a sound of flushing anyway. You suddenly don't feel like having to go anymore. What's going on here? That's odd. What about the linen closet? The closet is completely empty. The walls are a strange, untextured white. What about the shower? There's nothing in the shower. No bottles of soap and shampoo. Let me try that again. No bottles of soap or shampoo, and no shower head or faucet. It's just an empty box. You head back to the den. The clock chimes. Let's see. Let's check the clock. It's 11 o'clock. Let's talk to Dave. Never mind. Let's see. Could call Mom. I could ask about Uncle's visit again. I'm just gonna watch Dave play some more. You don't feel like playing games or watching anyone play games. Alright. Let's see. Ask about Uncle's visit. Your uncle stays with you for any visits? Yeah, says Dave nonchalantly. He lives pretty far away, and so he just drops by. Isn't that a little weird? Dave gives you a look you don't like very much. How would you know? He asks. You don't even have an uncle. Yeah, I guess so. You drop the conversation in silence. Let's see. Just gonna have some more popcorn. Let's talk to Dave about something else. Let's talk to him about games. You try to strike up a conversation, but Dave is too involved in the game and seems to be ignoring you. You simply watch him play in silence. An hour passes. The clock chimes. The grandfather clock chimes the hour as Dave suddenly looks up from the 64. It's time, he says. Stop being weird. Someone knocks at the front door. That's him, he says Dave, standing up. I should go let him in. As he leaves the den, you realise you could follow it, but part of you really feels like being scarce for a bit. I'm just gonna follow. The knocking continues persistently as you follow Dave to the front of the house. Outside the pebbled glass of the front window, you can see a tall, dark shadow. Dave goes to the door, undoes the deadbolt, and cracks it open. You can come in, he says to whoever stands out there on the porch, then looks over his shoulder at you. Sorry, he says. Before you can ask what there is to be sorry about, the door slams open. Undefined error. The uncle who works for Nintendo. So, this is the first of several endings for this game. I'm thinking about recording the other endings as, like, separate videos. So, you know. I'll give it a try. And I apologize if that last part was, like, really loud. But yeah, it can either restart from the beginning or restart at 7 o'clock in the den when things start to actually matter. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I shall see you later.